It is currently the evening of the 26th of August 2020 in the Western Pacific. Of course, I'm still talking about Typhoon Bavi today, but there is another area, low pressure area, also known as Invest 94W, located towards the east of the Philippines. For those of you in Okinawa, you're probably going to be wanting to pay attention to that. I'll put a time code in the description and just give you an idea of when I do start talking about that. But first, let's talk about Bavi. This is now a Category 3 storm system according to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. It's starting to get sheared up a little bit, so it is seeing a little bit of a weakening, but regardless, continues to pack a pretty significant punch here. This is actually the latest radar as of about 10 p.m. from the Korean Meteorological Agency. Center of circulation still well offshore and well towards the west of Seoul, but these rain bands continuing to wrap around. And even ask anybody from Okinawa from this storm system earlier this week, they will tell you these rain bands are no joke, especially in southwestern areas of the island. The good news, much of the west coast is kind of rocky, so storm surge is not a terrible concern, but where I do think the surge is going to be worst is towards the west of Pyongyang, where you have that moisture and just the overall wind flow and the forward motion of storm pushing up against the coastline there. And I do believe there will be a decent surge over 10 feet in parts of the west coast of the DPRK, the west of Pyongyang and towards the north and west of Seoul. But eventually the storm is going to continue to track inland. Winds right now, as I mentioned, about a Cat 3 strength, so 100 gusting 125 knots. It is continuing the weekend. The big issue further inland is going to be the rainfall. There are zero questions in that. The DPRK also really suffering from the pandemic, based on small reports coming out of there. Of course, the Hermit Kingdom's not going to come out and say, hey guys, we're having an issue here, but based on localized reports coming out of there, plus they had a very significant rainy season, so additional rainfall on top of all those problems definitely is going to cause issues for more rural locations further inland. And this is actually indicating these darker reds about 300 to 400 millimeters of total precipitation, which that is enough to cause some very intense rainfall, or I mean, I should say flooding, resulting from that rainfall off there into the deep. But here's the deal. I know that I have probably zero viewership in the DPRK, so I'm going to move on and let's talk about our other area. This is Invest 94W, located towards the east of the Philippines. Pretty disorganized at this time, but there is plenty of convection to boot around a very weak low-level center. Now, you can see that here based on ASCAT imagery. This is a polar orbiting satellite. It kind of gives you a rough estimate of what winds are over water because it uses direction of waves. And you can kind of see the troughing right in there, but there's not a defined low-level circulation. This is important, and I want to touch on this real quick. I know a lot of the models I'm going to show you right now do show a pretty intense storm system impacting the southern Japanese islands by Monday into Tuesday, but without a defined low-level circulation, there are a lot of question marks that we have to, or caveats I should say, with these models, because once you get that low-level circulation, there is better initialization. That's why we fly planes and the hurricanes in the Atlantic, because the information they gather from the center of those storms does help out the initialization with weather models, which helps improve forecasts. And there's a few other things going on here. So let's take a look at our 500 millibar geopotential height. This is using Tropical Tidbits, great website, by the way, with the GFS model. I'm going to show you a few different models, but GFS with the upper levels here, just kind of give you an idea what's going on. So you have our area here going into tomorrow, starting to slowly kind of spin up. We have what's left of Bavi moving towards the north, what's going to help dig down this trough out of China, and a high pressure over Japan. Plus, here's the other key thing, a tut located towards the southeast of that high pressure here towards the northern Mariana Islands. All three of these are going to put variables into where exactly this will go and how strong it will get. Take a look ahead here. We can watch as our area moves off here towards the north. Our trough kind of weakens up and the high pressure builds in a little bit, but here comes that tut coming in from the east. Now, if this pulls in strong enough, it could allow our storm system to waver a little bit further east, moving directly over the island of Okinawa. How strong it will be? Well, the more it influences our storm, the weaker our storm will likely be. If the high pressure stays in place and moves towards the west, the stronger it would be. These are just kind of variables we got to think about here. And if this trough digs in more, this would swing further towards the west. Based on guidance right now, though, the TUT is going to have a little bit of an impact, but overall, bring up the GFS and the ECMWF, they both kind of have a very similar outcome. This moving towards the north, tracking just west of the island of Okinawa before moving off there towards north into the South Korea. But ECMWF kind of has more of an influence of that high. The GFS has more influence of the TUT further towards the east. I have to agree with the GFS, and I know I don't want to scream, get ready, there's a storm coming, because I could just show this. Actually, you know what, I actually could show what I see a lot of people share. This with very little context, but the key thing, and by the way, this is the windy.com, great website, good visualization, but you always have to have context. The key thing is that this still is not organized yet, and based on everything we're seeing, it should track just west of the island. But if that TUT does influence a little bit more, it could track a little bit further towards the east. So here's what the ECMWF shows, and this is what the GFS shows. Big variable on how close it gets, and a lot of variables on the influence of what's going on over here, our high pressure, that TUT over here, and that trough over there. I mean, there's just so many factors. This is a hot garbage mess of what's going on in the upper levels here. It's not a really concrete atmospheric flow. So with that said, I'm going to wait another 24 hours to see this spin up, see how it organizes, where that low level center develops, and then we'll have a much more concrete expectation. For now, if you went through Bavi and you were prepared for it, just keep that up. It is that time of year. I mean, goodness, it's late August, early September. We haven't had many storms this year. It's to be expected. Anywhere in the tropics, out here in the Western Pacific. On another note, I just want to pull back the picture. Big shout out to my friends over here in the Atlantic. I know everybody's dealing with Laura. This is a beast of a storm. Just that outflow towards the north and south. The Texas-Louisiana coastline is going to be looking at upwards of 12 to 14 foot storm surge and Category 4 strength winds, at least wind gusts. That is enough to relocate homes, just straight up relocate with that storm surge. I mean, I saw the aftermath of Katrina and know what this stuff can do. So hope everybody's taking this very seriously there in the Gulf of Mexico. Stay safe out there, guys. And as always, thanks for watching. 7-minute long video. This is my longest one in a while.